Jai Hind to all the listeners, all the audience who have gathered today on the eve of 26th July, which is 22nd anniversary of Kargil Vijay Divas. So before we move ahead, let me share the screen so that I can show you something alongside. In the next about 40 to 45 minutes, we will discuss about the battlefield. But ironically, the most difficult battlefield is something which is inside us. We'll discuss about how soldier overpowers that challenge of fighting with himself and then overpowers anything which comes in front of us. We're talking about Kargil war, which we conquered 22 years ago, the lost territory because of deceit done by our neighborhood. It was first of its kind in which all three services were deployed in an operation. Mind you, this was not a war. Loosely, we know it as a Kargil war. However, the real name of this is Operation Vijay, as far as Indian Army is concerned, Operation Talwar, as far as Indian Navy is concerned, and Operation Safed Saga for the Indian Air Force. But for the first time in the history, all three services joined hand together for a operation. Why am I calling it an operation? Let me make you that clear. Anything which happens of international border is known as war. If there is a breach of international border, it's known as war. All the wars which we fought previously with Pakistan or China was the breach of international territory. But in this case, the line of control is decided as visible on the map. You can see India, which is written, is actually Pakistan occupied territory. And in yellow, the India is the real India where we are today nowadays, J&K. The red line which runs in between is known as line of control. So the control which we attained after 71 war is somehow being accepted by both the countries that okay, this is your side and that is mine side. It is somewhere around 740 kilometers running across the J&K region, starting from Akhnur, little ahead of Jammu, where I was deployed, till Daulat Beg Oldi, from where the line of actual control, which is the imaginary boundary between China and us. So when there is a breach on line of control, which is not accepted as international border, that's how known as operation, not a war. So as I mentioned, for Air Force, it was for the first time that they entered into an operation by the name of Operation Safed Sagar, but also for the first time any air force in the history of world fought at above 18,000 feet or so. They bombarded the area. They cleared as much area as possible for the Indian Army to go and do rest of the task. But that was for the first time in the history of World Air Force that on such heights, Air Force attacked and conquered their missions. In the process, we lost a MiG, we lost a chopper also, and there was a prisoner of war, Flight Lieutenant Nachiket. We will speak about him later. In the recent past, you all must have heard Abhinandan was captured as prisoner of war, but that was not a prisoner of war. That was because he did something, and we all know about. Let's not digress from the topic. But in this war, also, Flight Lieutenant Nachiket was captured and he was declared POW for some time. After that, he was released. As far as Navy is concerned, this war is known as Operation Talwar. They had a limited task to do, but then whatever they did was a mind-blowing, game changer type of action, because in Arabian Sea, western and eastern maritime boundaries of India, which is a route for Pakistan Army to get all the shipment also, was blocked by Indian Navy. So much so that Nawaz Sharif, during the time when action was going on in Operation Vijay, did mention that if there is a full-fledged war, Pakistan can only sustain for 6 days of fuel, and that is courtesy our Indian Navy. Let's come to Operation Vijay, which is known as famous as Kargil War, and we'll discuss about what happened in Operation Vijay. So what was the agenda of Pakistan? Well, कोई ज्यादा बड़ी बात नहीं है समझने के लिए. पाकिस्तान का हमेशा एजेंडा कश्मीर की तरफ ही होता है. But this was a tricky way they had approached, and it was a very smart move from Pakistan side, because they wanted to cut off the Zojila-Leh axis, National Highway 1 Alpha, which is actually like a lifeline. From here, the valley, the Ladakh region, and the Siachen is being fed. So if you cut off that axis and you capture that area, you get the access to unaffected area, which is Ladakh region. Kashmir Valley is infected by militancy, but Ladakh is not at all. So they had the agenda of infiltrating the militants to that region also, and cutting off the supply to Siachen, because Siachen was again a blot on their history, where we captured at 22,000 and above height. And the post is manned by our people. I'll show you a picture of that post also. And ultimately, the real agenda always for Pakistan is to do something and negotiate Kashmir. But they fail always. If you see this map, this is the road which is mentioned by red line, which runs from Srinagar, Zojila, Dras, Kargil, is National Highway Khalsi and Leh. So the Kargil area is the nearmost area from the line of control. And that's the reason why it was most hot during the war. And that is the reason why every camera was deployed there. This is the first time the war was telecasted live into the bedrooms of Indian. And that's the reason why it got famous as Kargil War. Otherwise, the real name is Operation Vijay. So plan of action kya tha Pakistan ka? It was simple. You know what happens in these regions during winters? Our army, which we man the post on line of control, retreats back, because during winters earlier, before the Operation Vijay, we used to find it as a safe area, and it is still safe because it comes under the Ladakh region. But finding that gap during winters, they played the trick, and from January to April 99, they prepared for the war there. All these stockings for the winter, all these stockings for the weapons, ammunition, ration, and building up of temporary sangars, which were used for as the bunkers by the Pakistani army. Everything was done during this period. Very smartly, Pakistani army put a ban in the northern region so that there is no press access to that side. And nobody comes to know what exactly they are trying to do. Initially, even their prime minister was not aware that what is happening in that region. And of course, alongside training of militants with the Pakistan regular army was kept on happening. By the end of April, they had started coming towards our side and had captured the important peaks where we later on fought and made them run away from. Of course, because nobody was aware from our side, they achieved the first foremost principle of war, that is surprise. There's no doubt about it. They achieved the total surprise in that. What were our challenges? Now the challenges were very big. Let me tell you, because I already mentioned, in winters we used to retrieve from those areas. And those areas, because erstwhile there were never some such threats happening in, so it was not very thickly manned. The gaps between the battalions which were deployed otherwise also during rest of the time, other than winters, was huge, so much so that anybody can infiltrate in between. Now it is very easy to listen to this statement that how can the gaps be huge, but when you go to that area, when you see that terrain, you will understand that it is not at all possible to cover each and every point and fill the gap so that nobody can infiltrate. It was a easy approach, gradual climb from the Pakistan side to rise to reach to those heights. But from our side, it was a steep cliffs. I'll show the picture of the cliff, and you will be surprised that how our boys climbed those cliffs. Not only climbed but conquered the enemies. Let me tell you, as per the teachings of mountain warfare, enemy who's sitting at top is always having an edge on the opposite party, and for the opposite party it needs the ratio of 1 against ratio of 10 against 1 enemy to even climb and conquer. And if the terrain is so inhospitable like it is in the Kargil Dras sector, then the ratio of 1 is to 10 in fact goes up to 1 is to 20. But we did it. We did it despite not being equipped with the required clothing. Ladies and gentlemen, many of the boys rose to those heights, climbed those heights in the winter in jungle boots. Jungle boots is made of canvas only. They did not wait for ideal situations ever, because the aim, the task is something right in front to make the enemy either drop the weapon or run away or kill them. Of course, the supply lines were also choked. The limited supply lines to reach to those areas in hospitable terrains as always existed. But there were some situations where boys decided to not even carry the dry ration. It's important to have a backpack, ammunition, personal weapon, and some amount of dry ration, so that you don't know when you are going for an attack, you don't know how much time it is going to take, whether it is day or night. It's not like morning 9 to 5 office hours that okay, after 5 o'clock nobody can touch you. Nothing like that. But there were many boys who decided against carrying the dry ration to avoid load and carry ammunition instead of that. That's the type of dedication, passionate boys Indian Army have. And the most difficult challenge which we had in front of us, which was actually helpful diplomatically also, and later on when we will discuss about the war, we'll come to know that because of that we did had advantage. But as far as boys and the soldiers on ground was concerned, not crossing of LC was the most difficult challenge. Had they given us the go ahead, okay, go, boys, go and cross over the LC and kill them, we could have killed the bastards even before they retreat from there by crossing the LC and going to the other lines, like we did in Uri also. But then that was a diplomatic call taken by our Prime Minister, and it was rightly taken because it helped us to finish off and wind up the war early. Now, just to show you some pictures, we generally crib when some amount of electricity cut happens at our place. Either it is summers or winters, AC nahi chal raha, thoda gadbad ho gaya. But these are the types of cozy homes the boys have there when they get deployed also, and when during the war also. If they ever get some amount of time to rest, this is the type of cushion bed they had. No Dunlop pillows, nothing like that. not even beds. There was whatever time they had to take some amount of nap before launch of operation, it was on these type of rocks. This is not a rocky mountain. This is actually a route to Khalubar, which was one of the area in the whole mountainous range, which was supposed to be captured by the boys. And Olympic is on in this type of Olympic arena, which was the last final. The goalpost is right in front of you, and the last dhawa is supposed to be done. You can see the climb, and you can see the slippery mountain, and there are no medal. There is nobody who can go for a silver medal. Either it is a gold or none. And our boys always conquered the area despite any challenge for the gold. Army marches on supplies. Army marches on stomach. So supply line, as I mentioned earlier, was a difficult task. But whether it is any type of services, Army Ordnance Corps, who supplies ammunition, equipment or anything, or Army Supply Corps, who supplies fuel and ration, it was made available to the boys. We generally get stuck on such roads, inhospitable. But then when the task is right there in front of you, it's not necessary whether you are a supporting arm or a service. War is a war. So let's go to the area of operation. The map is same, but here I have highlighted also the line of control, which is in the form of a dotted line. And you can see Jojila, Dras, Kargil, Batalik, Mashko, all these areas are the area where the actual battle happened, the actual war happened. Of course, I was not deployed in these areas. I was down south, even further ahead of down south, Srinagar to Akhnur, from where the line of control begins. But there were a lot of action in that area also. But this is known as Kargil war because this is the place where they had targeted, because they wanted to cut off the National Highway 1 Alpha. That was the main task, and to divide Kashmir and Ladakh and capture the hills so that they can monitor and control the whole Ladakh region and infect them with a infiltration of militants to control the region and negotiate the Kashmir for their better. So let me run you through a little bit of snapshot what happened from 3rd of May to 26th of July, when finally it was told that enemy has evacuated our posts. It was on 3rd of May, a shepherd, I think his name was Tashi Namgyal, who saw some amount of infiltration, and then he came and he told the army boys there, the Jat regiment which was deployed in that area. Captain Saurabh Kalia patrol was the first patrol party who went to do the recce of that area. The whole party was captured and brutally killed by the Pakis. Captain Kalia's body came back in a gunny bag. Eyes taken out, body cut into pieces and stuff like that. But the recce was confirmed that there are more than 200 Pakistanis sitting in that area. And 9th of May, the shelling started on Kargil ammunition dump. And of course, action from our side kept on happening in various areas to save whatever we can. Till mid-May, they had captured many peaks. So finding that the capturing of peaks have happened, the first action, as always, is being taken by the Air Force. Operation Safed Sagar started 26th of May. And they went and bombarded all the peaks which were found to be captured by the Pakistanis. Fortunately, there was no Pakistani Air Force retaliation because Pakistan was in a denial mode that it is not a regular troops, it is militants who are capturing, and we can't do anything. Nachiketa, as I mentioned, was captured by Pakistani troop because his MiG-27. There was a malfunction in the MiG-27. The engine could not carry on. He tried his best to reignite the engine, but then it fell on the other side and they captured him. For about 6 to 7 days, he was prisoner of war, and on 3rd of June, he was released back because of negotiation between the two countries. By 5th of June, the first proof came, we caught hold of the first proof, the letters and the ID cards of the Pakistani soldiers who crossed over to our side and killed by our army. And as the luck would have, on 11th of June, Musharraf was caught talking to his deputy over a phone line intercepted by our intelligence people. He had gone to China for seeking support, and from there he had spoken to General Ashraf. And while he was talking over a phone line, the phone line got captured, intercepted by us. And that was a solid proof that Pakistani regular army is the one who's playing this nonsense task. It's not militants who are acting smart here. On 13th of June, the recapturing started happening. The battle which started on May 20th for Tololing, Battle of Tololing, was finally regained on 13th of June. And on 15th, although Nawaz Sharif had ran to US for seeking support, but then US was not a nonsense. President Bill Clinton told him, please don't do such nonsense acts and pull back your troops. So that was a big jhatka for Nawaz Sharif. He thought that US will help, but then it got a jhatka from there. And from 29th to 4th of July, the severest of battle happened on Battle of Tiger Hill. Tiger Hill is the place which is the topmost region of that area. This was a big U-turn again, because from there you can dominate. And 6th July, 0.4875 was regained by my course mate, Captain Vikram Batra, the Paramveer Chakra. You must have heard that later on even Pepsi or Cola took away this tagline, Ye Dil Mange More. But Ye Dil Mange More was the success signal by the Batra and his party. Sher Shah, he's known as. There's a movie getting released on very soon, I think on 15th of August or so, Sher Shah by the name of Sher Shah, which was the code name of Captain Vikram Batra. On 5th July, of course, because of the shut-up call given by Portas, Nawaz announces and agrees that it is a regular troop and tells Musharraf, please get your boys back. No more nonsense can carry on there. From 7th of July to 11th of July, the Battle of Batalik happened and Batalik region was regained. And on 14th of July, Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, our Prime Minister, announced openly that we have won Operation Vijay. But why do we celebrate 26th of July? Because till 26th, there were many skirmishes and action actually happened between our army and their army. The notorious Pakistanis did not leave just like that. They tried their best even before leaving the captured area. So total withdrawal of Pak forces happened on 26th of July. And that is the reason why on 26th of July every year we celebrate Operation Vijay victory. Ladies and gentlemen, Indian Army believes on team effort. I'll tell you why this happens and how we believe on that. But if we are successful ever in any task, not just the Kargil war or any war, not just war operation, but any such task like you know, earthquake, landslide, or floods, or any such stuff. The victory to Indian Army only happens because we believe in team effort. It's not even a one soldier. Team effort. If you happens to go to the Dras Memorial, ever, which is in the memory of all the soldiers who laid down the life in line of duty, you will see this picture there. It speaks itself. I don't have to say anything. On one side, there is a gallery of the Dras Memorial. On the other side, the cemetery is there. We won. And we will definitely win ever again. But this is the cost. $527 killed, 1362 wounded. I take pride that I am one of the 1362. Of course, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, nobody wins the war. It is always a lose-lose situation. We celebrate because that is the way one should celebrate the sacrifice of warriors. Even Pakistan lost. These are the figures which Indian Army declares. We have a confused figures about it, but this is what Indian Army says, that because we could, many bodies we could count, we have, as per the ethos of Indian Army, we have always returned back all the bodies, and the bodies which were not taken back by the Pakistani army, ceremoniously we have buried them on our side also. And this is the memorial.
Thank you.
This is the peak which you see, ladies and gentlemen, behind you, where they had climbed. The flag is flying today, not because the wind is blowing, but because many have sacrificed their lives for this flag. Why? The question is why? Why the soldier is so? Why nobody else can't be like him? Who is that soldier who sacrifices selflessly? Have you ever thought about it? Let me answer you. Whether it is plus 50 of Thar Desert or minus 50 of Siachen, the cross marks which you see, blue cross marks and red cross marks, it is actually the post manned by our boys as high as 24,000 feet. And this is the post where I was deployed. The red cross marks right in front are the Pakistani post, and this side in the blue is the Indian post, which was my post. 80 meters away was the nearest post I had. Whether it is plus 50, minus 50, or desert or jungles or riverbed or anywhere, nobody can take away smile from the face of an Indian Army soldier. This is the bunker in which I was deployed, where I got injured. If ever I used to get some time during the during afternoon, you know who used to be visitors for me? It was the big rodents who used to even eat my bathing soaps, etc. They used to visit on my bed and nibble my feet and wake me up. The heat was so bad that you can cook an omelette on the rooftop, tin shed. There was no supply of fresh rations. The ration supply which we used to get, you will discard it if you go for a vegetable vendor. No AC, no cooler, no fridge, no telephone, no internet, nothing to order, no fresh newspaper also. But then the soldier is dedicated. Why is he so? The question again is, why is he so? And the answer is, he got a purpose. He got a purpose in life to defend these boundaries of our country. If there is anybody who has a nefarious thought process, eyesight, who can see, even look at my motherhood from a nefarious thought process, I can, take away his eyes from there. I'll stand between the Indians and any enemy. That's the purpose which a soldier has. But how is he trained to live up to this purpose? Because he's trained to be the best and ready to face the worst of situation. He's ready to face worst of situation. He does not have time to cry, oh, Corona has come, lockdown is there, I can't do it. Nothing like that. He doesn't have an option, because he is the one who is there in between any type of disruption and Indians and India and Indian motherland. So what does he do? How is it possible? He accepts everything and anything which comes its way. He accepts the reality. If there is no ammunition, let it be. If there is no ration, let it be. If there is no mountaineering equipment, let it be. My task is clear in front of me. I have to defend my borders, and I have to bloody make these bastards run away from my mother's territory. And that's when he put his best of foot forward by doing any type of hard work which is required to be done. Most often we also face such situation, like nowadays we are in corona condition, lockdown or whatever, we are working from home, we don't have options to go and visit our clients and stuff like that. But can you change these conditions? No, you have to live with it. So what exactly you should be focusing upon? We always focus on circle of concern and we get confused. Rather, a soldier is trained to focus on circle of control. What is under his control, it should be controlled. That's it. So if you focus on your circle of control, what you can do is something which is more important than what is not right or what is not wrong and what is not possible and what is happening incorrect, market condition, this, that, all that nonsense crap which we get into discussion, waste our time. Soldier doesn't waste like that. He's only bothered about what can he control and how can he, by his action, influence on the circle of influence. And gradually that increases, the control increases, the influence increases, and concern goes away. And if ever that inner battle, the self-doubt arises, it is being controlled by nothing. Man jeete jag jeet. That's the mantra which I also followed. That's the mantra with which I conquered a lot of things, even after stepping out of the armed forces. So a soldier does so, he controls his any type of situation because he follows this credo. The safety, honor, welfare of your country comes first, always and every time. Your welfare and honor and comfort comes last. Before you come your team. So imagine a team which is working on this principle that he is not at all worried about himself. He's only worried about first country and then his team member. Success will always be there. And that's how we are successful. That is the reason why even my men evacuated me from the battlefield. When I got injured, as told by the MD also, the bomb landed just 1.5 meters away from me. Its shrapnel cut me through, put me into pieces. Many are still embedded inside me. I was lying like a fountain of blood, pool of blood. unconscious. It was a sheer courage and raw spirit of 7th Battalion, the Dogra Regiment, boys of 7th Battalion, the Dogra Regiment, who, without worrying about their own life, evacuated me from the battlefield. And of course, the courage and never say die spirit of this gentleman, Lieutenant Colonel Rajinder Singh, the anesthesiologist, who, despite being declared dead on arrival by the surgeon, did not leave me. He said, I will try my best, and he revived me. Of course, he revived me, but left me on the hospital bed with so many injuries. You name a body part, and I'll tell you what injury is there. And what the weight, what you see there down left side, 28 kgs, is after 40 days of my hospitalization. These are the bomb particles which are still intact inside my body. There are around 73 shrapnels. All these red tick, white patch in front of red tick is the shrapnel. This is my pelvic area. Adding on to that, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is something which the warriors, the soldiers who get exposed to war type scenario or inhospitable conditions, they get affected with. And when I stepped out of the army, I was left alone, got this letter in my hand. Adding to that, the society was eager to put me into the disabled category. Despite me being negating that I am capable of doing things, I am a soldier. They were eager, no, you can't do anything. It's not possible for you. That's the reason, ladies and gentlemen, with this reality of mine, physical, psychological, emotional, societal, all raising question mark on my ability, the resolution which I saw was to have control over circle of control, conquering self-doubt. The circle of control which I had shown you in the past on one of the slides. And that is the reason why over the years, starting from regaining my control of my life in my hand to becoming the first amputee marathon runner in India in 2009, to first Blade Runner in 11, and to run again in that inhospitable terrain myself, 11,700 feet in Ladakh region, to 2019 where I jumped out of plane from 12,700, 500 feet around 8 times and became first disabled solo skydiver of Asia. Was it an easy task? Not at all, because every run used to leave me injured again. Despite having so many injuries, every run used to make me bleed, and for the next 15 days, I used to be in bandages because of such brutal bloodshed over my amputated stump. But was that the reason for me to leave? No. Ladies and gentlemen, I took it again as a challenge, and I found the answers to those injuries so that I can help the other amputees, my brothers and sisters who are suffering from that type of a situation. Because extraordinary results will never be in your comfort zone. Remember that always. You have to step out. If you are feeling today that you are being marred by the market condition and the scenarios around, the conditions prevailing because of corona, lockdown, and such stuff, this is the moment when if you step out of your comfort zone, you can conquer something which is unimaginable for you. That's the reason why, if you ask me today, what is the best thing happened in my life, I will say I got injured. In fact, I laugh over it. I said, thank you, Mr. Musharraf. You threw that bomb on me. It changed my life for better. If you think it is only possible for a Fauji, you are very, very highly incorrect, because this NGO of mine, the challenging one which I made in 2011 after running my first Blade Run, is ensuring this purpose only, that every amputee in India is infected with this passionate attitude. and you can see this smile on the faces. If they can understand that controlling and worrying about your circle of control is the only way out to live beautifully. Do not get concerned by anything happening outside. You can't change these circumstances, situation. You can't change people. You can't change condition. You can't do anything. Only thing which you can empower is your inner strength. Your inner strength. Man jeete jag jeet. These boys and girls have understood this fact, and that's why the smile is there on the face. So you won't wait for ideal circumstances if you have a purpose in your life, ladies and gentlemen. Like a soldier who never waits for that. He only goes and fight and conquers. Record awards is only a follow-up to that. You don't have to worry about that. I got the national record in 2018 by the government of India, but I never bothered about it. It happened because I was more focused on my task. With this, I come to the end. This is my IDs and email. If somebody can wish to write to me one-to-one, I am approachable anywhere here. And if you want to know about more about me, you can pick up this book from Amazon. He'll tell you the story, starting from the challenges which I faced even in childhood.